students, my name is Janusz, and I am your school guidance counselor here at Options for You. Part of my job as your guidance counselor is to make sure that you have the information necessary to make the best choices in regards to your education during and after high school. Today we're going to be going over the dropout rate, which is quite high in our nation. So I kind of targeted this group of students who are between 0 and 60 units, which means you're about a freshman going on to be a sophomore if you're in the room today. And I targeted you guys just because we want to target groups early on to try and prevent this from happening. So if we'll go ahead and get started. And the first slide here is just the agenda of kind of what we're going to go through today. We're going to define what a high school dropout is, Every Student Succeeds Act. We're going to go through what that means to you. Stats, GED information, questions, and then we have a closing game that we'll do together as well. So the first thing is, before you take a look at the slide, can anybody tell me, what does the term high school dropout mean? Does anybody have an idea of what it means to be a dropout?
Not completing school.
Right, so that is a piece of it, not completing school. So as you look here, the definition of a high school dropout, the status dropout rate represents the percentage of 16 to 24-year-olds who are not enrolled in school and have not earned a high school credential. So by credential, they mean diploma or a GED, which is the equivalent of a diploma, okay? And one thing that was interesting to me was that it was a range of 16 to 24-year-olds. I didn't realize that myself that it was that old. Did any of you guys realize that that was considered a range of?
No.
Okay, so I found that interesting as well. How many of you, or does anybody have a family member or know somebody that is considered a high school dropout? So now that you know the term of how it's defined between 16 to 24-year-olds, do any of you, by just a show of hands, can you say, do you know somebody that is considered a high school dropout? So within that range. So raise your hand if you have somebody that, okay, so both of you. Okay, good. That's not good, but that's kind of why we're here. Have any of these people ever discussed hardships that they're facing because of dropping out of high school? Or would you notice something, maybe a hardship, maybe if they even haven't discussed it with you, that they might be experiencing?
Yeah.
And what have they?
Hard to get a job,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're trying to pursue school after, they don't necessarily get in because they don't have what it takes to, they don't have the qualifications that it takes.
Right. Okay, so it's important to make sure that we're informed and we understand what is a dropout. And if you have those experiences with people at home that are experiencing themselves, it makes it that much more meaningful to you to understand what all of this means. Okay, so now we're going to move on to talking about Every Student Succeed Act. And basically, this will explain the decrease in dropout rates. When Obama took office in 2008, there were more than 1 million students that didn't finish high school. And in 2012, just under 750 failed to graduate, representing a 27% deduction. And the reason for that was because of something called the Every Student Succeed Act, which was put in place by George W. Bush in 2008 before he went out of office. So this act required that all states use the same formula for calculating the dropout rates, whereas before each state could kind of use their own formula and kind of tweak things, whereas now everybody is required to use the same formula to calculate their dropouts, and school districts are required to intervene in schools with consistently low graduation rates that serve low-income and minority students. So because of this act, we're now seeing a reduction in the dropout rates. Part of this is now all schools are put on level playing fields for accountability, and in turn schools are providing more resources to help students. So like here at Options, we provide the ELL specialist. So in case any students are ELL learners, we are providing them with a specialist that can help them through their packets of work to make sure that you guys as students are able to be successful. guys, which is an additional funding. So if you come in and you have struggle with math, that's there. So all of this is to help you be successful in graduating. And you know, every school can kind of manipulate where they feel like they need to place the money, the extra money for this, to help students be successful with graduation. Okay, graduation rates. So we have some information, basic information here. Can I get a volunteer to read the first two, the blue and the green slides for me, please? Yeah.
The national high school graduation rate for 2014 is 82.3%, an all-time high. The increase in graduation means 2 million more students graduated rather than dropping out.
And then Erin, would you read the last two, please?
Sure. In 2014, 72.5% of Black students, 76.3% of Hispanics, 87.2% of white students graduated from high school. Graduation rates for students with disabilities and ELL students remain in the very low 60s.
Okay, so does any of this surprise, like is something on here a surprise to any of you, or something just totally new information because you guys just aren't informed about any of this, or do you feel like any of you, that either of you could fall into any of these categories and possibly become a statistic because of something? Yeah. Okay. Along with this, here are some interesting facts, or actually we're gonna go on to risk factors. So there are a range of risk factors to be shown to increase students' risk of dropping out. Some of them are being a high absence rate, low levels of engagement in their school, low parental education, low parental involvement, and work or family responsibilities, and problematic or defiant behavior. So do any of you guys have a job currently? Are you trying to go to school and work?
Trying to help the family, yes.
Okay, so that's kind of the situation of a lot of our students, where you're trying to go to school, to earn an education, and trying to work to help provide for your family, which can also cause students to be absent, and then also can cause low levels of engagement, because if you can't be here to do extra activities, you're not going to be engaged in your school. So raise your hand if you feel like you fall into two or more of these categories. Okay, so we definitely need to try and figure out a way to help put you on a plan that provides balance between all of the things that you have going on in your life to try and be successful. Okay, so here are some interesting facts that are going to provide between gender, so gender-based differences in dropout rates. So in 2014, 7% of males aged 16 to 24 were high school dropouts, compared with 6% of females. And then this is kind of a high stat, considering that the males are the group that make up 55% of the dropouts. Can anybody think of a reason that maybe the male dropout is a little bit higher than the female dropout rate? It's only slightly higher, but.
More mature.
Okay, and
Going to work.
possibly, sorry.
Leaving to work.
Right, so I think a lot of times, if, you know, there is teen pregnancy and things like that, sometimes the male feels like he needs to be the one to go and provide for the family. So the girl will sometimes continue on with school, and the male will drop out and start a job. Or if it's like a head of household situation where there's been a death in the family or something like that, the male is the one to leave and go on to get a job and sacrifice the education. Okay, before we move on to the next slide, along with talking about graduation, there's also something called a GED, which is another alternative option to getting a diploma. Has anybody ever heard of a GED before? Yes, okay. Can anybody tell me what you think a GED is? What is it?
It's the equivalent to a high school graduation.
Okay,
Diploma.
so some people will go and take the GED, and then some people will receive a high school diploma. Do you guys feel that it holds the same weight?
No.
No. Okay, why?
I just feel like a high school diploma is, I don't know, a better option and looks better like on a resume.
All right, so we're gonna go through what a GED is. So GED stands for General school graduates some facts about the GED, is that high school graduates earn on an average about $1,600 more a month, than those with a GED. Okay, so if you receive a high school diploma, you're gonna earn about $1,600 more a month than somebody with a GED, okay? Less than 5% of those with a GED receive a bachelor's degree compared to 33%, which that's a pretty high jump, of students with a diploma. Studies show that high school graduates are more prepared for college and score higher on the placement test than GED holders, okay? So even when you're thinking of going to college, if you're taking the GED test, when now say you wanna go to a 2-year community college, you may not score as high on that entrance exam and possibly have to take maybe more entry-level classes or prerequisite classes to get where you need to be, okay? 77% of GED holders do not continue past the first semester of college, okay? And part of this is, you know, high school is preparing you to show up somewhere every single day, be on time, and make sure that you are held to a quality of work, whereas if you're getting your GED, you're taking the test, okay? Another kind of downfall, and I don't wanna say downfall to discourage GED, but I just want to show you guys the importance of what a high school diploma could mean for your future, is that if you were ever thinking of going into the military limits the number of acceptances per year and requires a higher score on the aptitude test for GED holders, because the military service dropout rates for GED holders is 45% compared to 24% for high school graduates. So just know, if you did wanna go into the military, they are gonna hold you to a higher standard, due to that, okay? Any questions about this, or anything that you feel, do you look at the two differently now? Like you both, said before, you knew what a GED, was and what a high school diploma was, but do you look at things a little bit differently now that you have a couple other facts to go along with what the GED would maybe limit you to?
Yes.
Okay, and then this is just kind of reinforcing some of the opposite side of what we just went through, with the GED. So the U.S. Census Bureau estimates a person with a high school diploma will earn $9,634 more a year than a dropout. High school graduates are less likely to engage in criminal behavior or require social services. Graduation is required to enter enter college and the military. So again, you can do the GED, but you're going to be held to a higher standard. And high school completers are less likely to be unemployed than those who have dropped out of high school. So you're more likely to get a job if you've completed high school. Okay, I know that many of you that come to options, and maybe even though right now you're between 0 and 60 credits, you may be 16 because you come to us deficient with credits, and at some point you feel, I've heard from many students that you feel a GED is your only option. And sometimes that is the only option. But if you are not having to work and you have somewhat of a support system at home, really the best route that you can do for yourself and your future is to try and finish with your high school diploma, because it's really setting yourself up for success in the future. So just a couple tips for staying motivated and on task that you can do is focus on high impact activities, so making sure that you're involved in the trips that we have here at school, student council, create new challenges for yourself, set attainable goals. That's super important. You can always come to me and we can set up something with your planning guide. Here's a goal of where I need to be by this time. Getting involved in school activities, limit the time you're absent from school. Whenever you're absent from school, you're missing out on work and other things, which is going to affect your grade. Have good communication with your teachers and communicate with your guidance counselor. So really quickly, to wrap up here, I have a game, and you guys were each given a pack of M&Ms when you came in. If you guys can each just pull out one of the colors, and I'm going to quickly go through and ask one of the questions that's up here. So Erin, first, you have green. So can you state one educational goal you currently have for yourself?
I want to attend a 4-year university.
Okay, good. That's a a good goal to have. So now we just need to set up obtainable, smaller goals to help you get to that point. Okay, Andrew, what color did you pull out?
I pulled out orange.
Orange. So who is your role model and why? Do you have a role model?
Yeah, I would say my role model is my mom, and it's because I want to be a teacher like her.
Okay, awesome. So I think the biggest point of this presentation is to make sure that we all set goals for ourselves and that we understand that, you know, sometimes the easier route isn't always the best route long term for us. Does anybody have any questions about anything